The void stretched infinitely before them, a sea of darkness punctuated by the cold glow of distant stars. The Xel'Thar Dominion's fleet drifted silently along the galactic rim, their sleek, silver hulls reflecting the faint luminescence of a nearby pulsar. Commander Varesh stood rigid at the command dais, his four elongated fingers gripping the crystalline console as his sensory tendrils quivered with unease. This sector was supposed to be uncharted, yet their long-range scanners had detected something massive lurking in the abyss. It had been a ghost on their instruments at first, a flicker, an anomaly that seemed to phase in and out of existence. But as they drew closer, the anomaly resolved into a construct unlike anything in the Xel'Thar's extensive database. It was a warship, but its design defied reason. Where the Xel'Thar believed in sleek, efficient curvature and elegant weapon integration, this vessel was a brute, a colossal slab of reinforced metal bristling with weaponry, an ugly contradiction to the refined engineering the Dominion prided itself on. "Initiate a full-spectrum scan," Varesh commanded, his voice a precise modulation of synthetic and organic resonance. His second-in-command, Analyst Kesh, hesitated before responding. "Commander, the ship is dormant. No energy fluctuations, no active systems. It could be derelict." "Then we confirm that assumption. Scan it. Now." The vessel loomed before them like a silent behemoth, its dark hull marked by the scars of battle, some wounds barely sealed over with a crude but effective alloy. The Xel'Thar were used to precision, their ships built with redundancy to prevent even the smallest imperfection. This thing, however, bore damage like a warrior displaying old scars. It was a testament to survival, not invulnerability. Kesh activated the scan, their quantum resonance field sweeping over the warship. At first, the readings were incomprehensible. The ship was layered in electromagnetic shielding, so thick it resisted even their most advanced sensors. But then, data began trickling in: schematics, power configurations, materials. What is this?" Kesh whispered. The Xel'Thar had encountered dozens of species in their conquest of the Outer Rim. Some had been formidable, but none had built a warship like this. It was redundant to an absurd degree, lined with multiple power cores, fail-safe systems, and an armor density that suggested its creators expected catastrophic damage as a matter of routine. The hull alone was composed of a composite material designed to regenerate on a molecular level, layered between reactive plating that could withstand direct hits from superheated plasma. And then there were the weapons. Kinetic weapons. Obsolete, primitive technology, or so the Xel'Thar had always believed. Yet here they were, massive railguns the size of city blocks, torpedo launchers capable of firing projectiles at near-light speed, and even something their scanners identified as a MAC, a magnetic accelerator cannon, a weapon that didn't merely destroy enemy vessels but punched through them, turning them into drifting fields of debris in an instant. Varesh's tendrils curled inward in something akin to dread. Why build such things when energy weapons are cleaner, faster? Kesh swallowed, his bioluminescent throat pulsing nervously. "Perhaps because these are not meant for precision strikes, Commander. These are meant to annihilate." Before Varesh could respond, the scan deepened, bypassing the outer defenses and probing the ship's core systems. The Dominion scanners were among the most sophisticated in the galaxy, capable of reconstructing battle logs, deciphering alien code, even interpreting recorded data within a ship's databanks. And what they found within this warship's archives was worse than the weapons themselves. Visual feeds played across the console, a history recorded in blood and fire. It started with battles against other human factions. The Xel'Thar had seen conflicts before, but never like this. The humans fought not with sterile precision, but with raw, unrelenting brutality. Fleets were torn apart by their own kind, entire planets left in ruins, not because of technological failure, but because humans fought wars of ideology, dominance, and vengeance. Their own worlds burned under their hands, and yet they thrived. Then the battles changed. The enemies were no longer human. First, an artificial intelligence that had attempted to purge its creators. The war should have been one-sided. The machines were superior in calculation, reflexes, and efficiency. Yet the humans did not fight like machines. They adapted. They sacrificed. They used their own weaknesses as weapons. The AI, despite its perfect logic, had not accounted for the sheer unpredictability of human defiance. It had lost. More conflicts scrolled past. Alien empires that had underestimated humanity, assuming their chaotic nature was a weakness, only to be eradicated when their wars turned from skirmishes into crusades. There was no single battle where humanity simply overwhelmed an enemy with sheer numbers. Rather, they won through endurance. Attrition should have broken them, yet it only made them more relentless. And then, the final piece of data, a battle log from this very ship. The Xel'Thar had expected to see a clash of fleets, a strategic exchange of firepower. Instead, they watched something far more horrifying. The ship had been crippled, left adrift in the void, its crew dead or dying. The enemy, a species unknown to the Xel'Thar, had boarded, seeking to capture what was left. What followed was not a battle. It was slaughter. The humans did not surrender. Wounded and outnumbered, they fought with ferocity beyond reason. They did not hesitate to detonate their own reactors, to vent entire sections of the ship into space just to take their enemies with them. The log showed men and women with shattered limbs, still holding weapons, crawling toward their foes with nothing but murder in their eyes. And when the enemy finally retreated, broken and horrified, the humans had still won, because the cost of victory for their enemies had been far too high. The feed ended. Silence filled the command deck. Kesh turned to Varesh, his voice shaking. "They're not like us." No, they were not. The Xel'Thar had conquered civilizations through superior strategy, through technological advancement. But this was something else entirely. Humanity did not fight wars to win them conventionally. They fought wars to make the idea of war against them an unbearable concept. Varesh exhaled slowly. His mind raced through every scenario, every outcome. The Dominion had always assumed that knowledge was power, that the ability to understand an enemy made them conquerable. But now he wasn't so sure, because what they had seen here wasn't just the sign of strong species. It was the sign of something far more dangerous. It was the sign of a species that, if provoked, would never stop fighting. Not until they, or their enemies, ceased to exist. And then, before he could issue the order to disengage, something on the human warship changed. The lights flickered, the engines hummed, and a single message, broadcast on an open channel, filled the Xel'Thar bridge in a language that needed no translation. "We see you." For the first time in his long career, Commander Varesh felt something akin to primal fear. It was an unfamiliar sensation, one that sent a cold pulse through his neural pathways. The Xel'Thar did not fear. Their kind had long since evolved beyond instinctive emotional responses, refining their logic to perfection. And yet, as those three words echoed through the command deck, a tension settled over the crew like a suffocating shroud. Kesh's fingers hovered over the interface, his pale blue bioluminescence flickering in distress. "Commander," that ship was dormant. Its systems were cold. And now, "I know," Varesh interrupted, his voice sharper than intended. His own tendrils coiled and uncoiled, betraying the unease he refused to show. The human warship had not moved. Its weapons remained still, its hull battered and scarred as before. But something had changed. The silence of deep space now felt like a predator's gaze locked onto prey. Their scan had been detected. No, more than detected. It had been answered. The bridge crew worked in a frantic yet disciplined rhythm, their translucent screens flashing intricate streams of data. Every signal from the warship was being analyzed, but the conclusion remained the same. "Commander," Kesh said, his voice hushed. "They are awake." It was a ridiculous notion. Machines awoke. Programs initialized. But a warship? A construct of metal and circuitry? It had no consciousness, no mind. And yet the Xel'Thar had probed it, laid bare its horrors, and now it had stirred. "Disengage the scan," Varesh ordered. Immediately, the order was carried out within seconds, but the unease did not fade. The ship had noticed them, and now, every second they lingered felt like standing too close to a sleeping predator, uncertain whether it would attack or allow them to leave unscathed. Then, something new appeared on their displays. "Commander," one of the bridge technicians called out, his tendrils twitching with urgency. "New energy signatures. We're detecting fluctuations in their reactor cores." Varesh turned sharply. "Weapons? Negative. Not yet. But power is returning across their systems. Heat levels rising. The ship is waking up." The commander's mind worked quickly. If this vessel had the capability to obliterate fleets even in its battered state, what would happen if it was fully operational? The Dominion had faced many adversaries, had dismantled planetary defenses with strategic elegance. But this was an anomaly. It was no mere warship. It was something engineered for destruction at a scale beyond their comprehension. His decision was swift. Break formation. Increase distance by 3,000 kelix. Do not provoke. The Xel'Thar fleet obeyed instantly, their ships shifting in a precise, calculated maneuver, engines flaring with controlled energy. And yet the human warship remained still, its presence growing more oppressive, more unbearable with every passing second. Then, the data logs they had stolen from the ship's archives shifted again. Without warning, new files decrypted themselves, as if the warship had allowed it. No, wanted them to see more. Varesh did not want to see more. But the bridge screens flickered, and suddenly, the past played out before them once again. The warship had not always been alone. It had once been part of a fleet, one of many. The logs showed the humans launching a preemptive strike against an unknown enemy. The footage was raw, unfiltered, taken from battle-worn hull cameras and damaged data cores. It was not clean, orchestrated combat. It was carnage. Humans did not fight with precision. They fought with overwhelming violence. Where the Xel'Thar would have neutralized key enemy installations with calculated efficiency, the humans annihilated everything. Civilian transport vessels? Destroyed. Enemy escape pods? Ignored or gunned down. There was no hesitation, no mercy. Kesha's voice was barely a whisper. They do not fight wars. They end them. The logs continued. A final battle. The warship, the very one that now loomed before them, had suffered catastrophic damage. Its crew had been slaughtered. The enemy had boarded, tearing through its corridors. Yet even in the ship's dying moments, the humans had fought like cornered beasts. They had rigged entire decks to explode, had vented entire compartments into the void, had turned the very ship into a weapon even in defeat. Then, the final transmission from its captain. A single message, recovered from deep within the databanks. Asterisk, to whoever finds this wreck, to whatever species comes next. Know this. If you come for us, if you seek to erase humanity, we will burn your worlds to the ground. We will not go quietly. We will not break. We will become the monsters you fear in the dark. And when you realize what you've awakened, it will be too late. Asterisk. Silence followed. Varesh clenched his fingers against the crystalline console. His mind was racing through probabilities, through strategies, but for the first time, none of them led to victory. The Xel'Thar had built an empire through precision warfare, through calculated strikes that broke the will of their enemies before total war could erupt. But humanity had no such threshold. They would fight until there was nothing left to fight for. A new alert chimed. "Commander," Kesh said, voice tight. "Their reactor is at full power." There, a low, resonant hum filled the void. The human warship had activated its thrusters. Slowly, impossibly it moved. Not erratically, not in a state of blind aggression, but deliberately. A predator deciding whether the creature before was prey or something not worth the effort of a hunt. For the first time in Dominion history, Varesh considered retreat. Not a tactical withdrawal, not a repositioning maneuver, but a full-scale, unceremonious retreat. He considered it not out of weakness, but out of the chilling realization that the Xel'Thar had encountered something beyond their control. Then, a second message crackled through the comms, carrying no static, no distortion. Asterisk, we warned you. Asterisk, the warship's weapon systems came online. Not primed, not targeting, but ready. Waiting. Varesh did not hesitate. Order the fleet to fall back. Now. The bridge exploded into motion as the Xel'Thar ships turned in unison, their engines surging with synchronized precision. They moved fast, faster than any withdrawal maneuver in their recorded history, their sleek silver forms cutting through the void in desperate silence. The human warship did not follow. It did not need to. It had sent its message. As the Xel'Thar fleet accelerated into the abyss, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the anomaly, Varesh allowed himself a single thought, one that, had he been any other species, might have been called prayer. It had seen humanity, and now they had to make sure humanity never saw them again. The fleet moved in disciplined silence, engines burning hard as they left the haunted wreck far behind. The human warship did not pursue. It remained still in the black, a behemoth watching them from the abyss. Yet even as the distance widened, it did not fade from Varesh's mind. The warning it had given was neither boast nor threat. It was a fact. And he knew, without a doubt, that he had seen something the Dominion was not prepared to face. Kesh worked feverishly at his console, his tendrils rigid with tension. The bridge lights cast sharp reflections against his bioluminescent skin, flickering in erratic pulses as if his very body betrayed his racing thoughts. "The logs, Commander," Kesh said, his voice quiet but urgent. "They weren't meant to scare us. They were meant to be found." Varesh did not need to ask what he meant. The human ship had allowed them access, had shown them its history, its nature, not as a warning alone, but as an introduction. "The humans want us to know them," Kesh continued. "They want us to understand what they are." Varesh's tendrils curled inward. The realization sent a wave of cold reason through him. The Dominion had encountered warlike species before, but they all operated within known parameters, risk assessments, diplomatic thresholds, a desire for self-preservation. Every intelligent species understood the principle of mutually assured destruction. But humans had never fought to preserve themselves. They fought to ensure that no enemy could ever try again. "Commander," another officer called out, voice sharp with alarm. "Incoming transmission. Origin, human warship." The bridge fell into eerie silence. The words hung in the air, unwelcome. No one wanted to hear what the humans had to say next. "Play it," Varesh ordered, though his voice was quieter than he intended. The speakers activated with a sharp burst of static before a voice, calm, clear, undeniably human, filled the space. Asterisk, "You are not the first to come looking." Asterisk, a pause. No threat, no aggression. Just a simple statement. Asterisk, "We see you, Xel'Thar Dominion. We know your kind. We have met others like you before, and we buried them in the void." Asterisk, a flicker of motion on the distant ship. Varesh's eyes locked onto the viewing screen as he watched the behemoth's positioning thrusters adjust subtly. The warship was not moving toward them, but neither was it drifting aimlessly. It was shifting, recalibrating. Asterisk, "Do not test us. Do not come again. We're not a species that wars for conquest. But if you come to take, if you come to rule, then you will learn what others have learned before you. We are a species that does not forgive." Asterisk, the transmission cut. No further messages. No second warning. Just silence. The weight of the words pressed down on the bridge like a physical force. Even without telepathic communication, Varesh could feel the shared understanding among his crew. They had never encountered a species that spoke like this, without diplomacy, without veiled threats, just the cold certainty of beings who had survived things greater than themselves. "Commander," Kesh whispered, "what do we do?" Varesh did not answer immediately. His mind churned through the possibilities. A preemptive strike? No. Even damage, that ship would destroy them before they could land a decisive blow. A report to the Dominion? Yes, but what then? Would the ruling caste see this as a threat to neutralize, or would they understand what Varesh now knew? This was not a species they could conquer. "End all scans," Varesh ordered finally. "Purge the active data links. No further transmissions." Kesh hesitated but obeyed. The fleet's systems disconnected from the human warship, severing their digital tendrils from the abyss. Set course for the Dominion Corward Station, Varesh continued. We leave now. Engines ignited, and the fleet accelerated into the void, leaving the anomaly behind. Varesh stood motionless at the command dais, his mind still filled with the echoes of the human voice. Asterisk, we do not forgive. Asterisk, he had always believed that knowledge was the greatest weapon of the Xel'Thar, that to understand an enemy was to hold their destruction in one's hands. But this time, knowledge had only shown him how close they had come to something worse than war. They had come seeking an abandoned relic, a ship to study, a species to analyze. Instead, they had found something waiting in the dark, something that saw them first. The journey back to Dominion space was a silent one. The fleet traveled in precise formation, engines burning at maximum efficiency, but no one spoke of what they had seen. The bridge, usually a place of calculated discussion and strategy, felt like a hollow chamber, filled only with the unspoken weight of what lay behind them. Varesh stood at the helm, his mind a storm of calculations and probabilities, none of them leading to the outcome he wanted. Kesh had not left his console. His bioluminescent skin had dimmed to a dull glow, his tendrils slack with exhaustion. The data they had extracted from the human warship was still in the Dominion archives, encrypted and stored, but Varesh had already decided what must be done. Commander, Kesh said finally, voice quiet, cautious. When we arrive, what will you tell them? Varesh did not answer immediately. He had spent the past cycles crafting responses, forming arguments, predicting the reactions of the ruling caste. But no matter how he shaped his words, no matter how he structured the truth, it led to only one conclusion. If we reveal what we found, he said at last, they will see it as an opportunity or as a threat. Either path will end in war. Kesh exhaled sharply, the closest thing their species had to a bitter laugh. So we lie. We omit, Varesh corrected. The wreckage was unstable. We lost most of the data. No viable technology for salvage. No surviving threats. Kesh turned in his chair, studying him. You know they won't accept that. The Dominion does not ignore potential weapons. Varesh's gaze darkened. Then we must ensure they never find that ship again. The idea should have been unthinkable. To conceal information from the ruling caste, to destroy data that could benefit the Dominion, was treason of the highest order. But Varesh had seen enough. He understood what the humans had been trying to tell them. They had not threatened the Xel'Thar fleet. They had warned them. And unlike the arrogance of their kind, humans did not waste words on empty posturing. Kesh seemed to process the weight of the decision. His fingers twitched slightly over the console. I can corrupt the files, he said. Make it look like interference from the human warship damaged the archive. It won't erase everything, but it will be unreadable. Varesh gave a single nod. Do it. Kesh hesitated only a moment before his hands moved, entering commands, rewriting the very record of what they had witnessed. The screen flashed once, then dimmed. The truth was now a ghost, buried under layers of artificial corruption. It was done. The fleet continued on, the hum of the engines the only sound in the vast silence. Hours passed before the final alert chimed. Arrival at the Corward Dominion station. The vast construct loomed ahead, a city of silver and black suspended in the void, a beacon of Xel'Thar control. The moment they docked, Varesh knew there would be debriefings, inquiries, silent suspicions. But he had made his decision. He had chosen survival over ambition. As the docking clamps engaged, Kesh turned to him one last time. Do you think they'll come for us? Varesh considered the question. No, he said, not unless we give them a reason. And as he stepped off the bridge, he prayed that no one in the Dominion was foolish enough to try.